Raw Nationals preview with the Open 47s.
Yup.
So we have Heather and Tiffany Long. I know her from social media. There's several other like stronger 47s, but it's basically just the Heather show.
Yeah, do you think anyone's been able to make enough progress to be close?
No.
I haven't been really following what Heather's been doing, but from when she was competing previously, I know she was pretty out of reach just based on her deadlift mostly.
Yeah, well, see, this is the problem with the way they did the prime time. Is like there's how many 47s? There's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. There's eight 47s, and I think there's a couple that are not remotely in the same range as Heather, or even Tiffany. I think.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some gaps there, but I coach one of the lifters who's on the lower end of that, and I know she's had a really good training cycle, and we're expecting her to do well, but still not going to be in contention for the top spot there, just because Heather's kind of in a class of her own at the moment, at least.
So that's what I like. It's giving some of these lifters that may have just barely been able to get on there, or maybe it's their first year, and they are in the spotlight. But like the way they have this set up, there's like this first day, this Thursday meet. This is going to be crazy. I don't know how they're going to try to run this. They have two platforms for
Yeah.
prime time, which kind of defeats the purpose. It's like, okay, we want to be solely focused on this one lifter, in my opinion, and it should be on the lifters and you generally want it to be one, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be tricky to see how this is going to work with how many flights this is. This is how many flights? At least three? This is three flights?
It's going to have to be three, yeah,
Yeah.
for a lot of the primetime days, and I know the Sunday fives, 120s, and the big boys, and that session is guaranteed to to take quite a while. Um, but I think all these days are going to run maybe a little bit long because I mean the first day on Thursday we're looking at eight weight classes there that we're working through, I think.
Yeah. It's
Um, if you count the daytime ones with the 43 and 53.
Why do you think they stuck to the format of being Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday instead of having Wednesday? It seems like they prematurely were like, okay, well, hey, we're gonna do this setup, and no matter how many sign up, this is what we're sticking to. Doesn't it? It seems like that to me.
I haven't seen the venue itself. I think maybe they just assumed it'd be fun to add some extra platforms to what they were doing. But I agree with what you're saying, where two platforms for prime time kind of defeats the purpose because you're taking away the attention from one or the other, from having to watch two different streams or just having two platforms going at the same time. So maybe if it's timed out where, in person they're doing lifters kind of back to back and having it timed out that way, that'd be kind of cool for the audience. But I think they're just going to try to be as efficient as possible and just get through it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's move on to the 52s. We have basically Tina and Marissa, and
Mm.
I think what it's going to be is Marissa sinks her squats or Tina sinks her squats, and we'll see who wins from there. I don't know that there's too much of a gap outside of that. I think Marissa still pulls more. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen either of their training recently. I haven't followed it too much, but I know they're very similar lifters in that both are kind of borderline with their squats, and kind of similar in strength. Marissa tends to have a little bit of the edge there, but I know Tina's been continuously making progress, and she hasn't competed for quite a while this year. I think her last meet was the Arnold, maybe.
Totally.
Um, so she's had a lot of time to do more of an off season and build things up. So it could be possible this might be the year where she has a chance to take a run at the number one spot with the deadlift there. So we'll see. They're pretty similar on all three lifts. I think Marissa still has the edge there on bench most likely, and squats if she can get it to depth. But besides that, they're going to be pretty close, I think.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of these matchups, with I mean, I guess USA as a whole, everybody's so close in all of these totals that is just whoever makes a mistake, and then the other one either executes and they don't. Whoever makes the most lifts, kind of like Matt Gary says, that's basically is who's gonna win. I mean, when it's something like this where they're all benching 2.5 kilo increments, that's it.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, you hit it or you don't, and that's it. You move on.
Yeah.
Uh, so
And for someone with a big deadlift, especially in the female weight classes, if you're losing 2.5 on bench, it's really not a big deal. So it's not uncommon to see a lot of the lighter female lifters go 2 for 3 on bench, and there's not much you can do when you take that 2.5 jump and it's not
mm,
there. So that's not a big loss in the long run if you have the deadlift to make up for it.
more so with the squats, and I think that's going to be part of it. Is with all of these matchups, if you sink your squats, you go 3 for 3 on squats, you kind of dictate the rest of the way for all the other lifters too.
Yeah, and that's where Marissa's gotten into trouble at the world meets or really any big meet where she'll go 1 for 3 or 2 for 3 on squats, and usually it's related to depth, and she kind of has to dig herself out of that hole. So um, yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Okay, I feel like we move on to 57s,
Yeah,
and this is where we have some of our fam here, right? We got.
yep,
You can go ahead. You can talk
yeah. So
about it.
there's a few weight classes here on the women's side this year that are going to be wide open from some previous champions moving on or moving up a weight class. So 57s this year, we don't have Jennifer Milliken competing, who's been champion for a few years now, and that leaves that weight class wide open. So that's going to be really interesting to see. And same in 72s, we don't have Kim Walford competing, so 72s are also wide open, and we'll see a new champion there as well. But with 57s, the lifter I work with, Christina Paraki, is certainly going to be competitive. She's a well-rounded lifter. There's a lot of really good deadlifters in this group. Um, we look at Paraki, Amanda Shea, Melissa Barber. I think they've all pulled at least 190 in competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Melissa Barber is probably the strongest deadlifter of the group. She's pulled 190 to 195 in her last 3 or 4 meets, I believe, and has
Yeah,
missed 200 a couple times. But I have a feeling somebody in this class is going to pull somewhere around 200, and whether that's for the win or just for the deadlift record, I think we're definitely going to see a new American record from this group.
definitely. I've seen Melissa Barber. She's that's Swalissa, I think, on Instagram.
Mhm.
She's pulling really heavy a lot, and I think it's just if it's there, it's there. 200 probably after missing it twice in the last couple meets. She should be able. You would think like, hey, as a lifter, after missing it twice, you're fired up and ready to get 200 at the big one. The big actual big meet.
Yeah, I think she's strong enough for that too. It might be something where maybe she just needs to space out her deadlift attempts a little bit more because I think they tend to be pretty close together with, like 5 to 10 kilo jumps. And maybe if those were a little bit more spread out, she'd have enough for it. But she can definitely grind. And I think she'd probably be the favorite to have the highest deadlift of the group. Her
Mm-hmm.
bench is a little bit further back that kind of keeps her behind on total when we're talking about who's going to win the weight class. But um, yeah, we'll see. I think Scanlon kind of has to be the favorite based on what she's done this year, dropping down from 63 to 57 for a couple meets and really putting up some big totals that I think the rest of this group is probably going to have to chase.
Yeah, she's the favorite for sure as far as just the total, the nominated total. Her last local meets, I think she went down in total. Actually, she's missed more lifts, and I guess maybe it was that surge of going to that first, bigger meet. I mean, the big meet where you drop a weight class, you're fired up, you're ready, and that one was great, and then the next ones weren't as good. Um, I think it's going to be close if Christina can put everything together and not miss on squats. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be Scanlon to lose. If she doesn't hit a squat, that big third squat, definitely Christina will be right there. If she can pull, 205, 200.
I will see. I do have a feeling that a few of these girls are going to be attempting somewhere around there for the third day. Yeah, so I think it's possible that maybe 3 or 4 of these girls are going to be attempting somewhere around 200 kilos or more, which is crazy. I mean, even 180 is more than 3 times body weight for this weight class. So these are some huge deadlifts that we're going to see in this weight class.
Uh, I think if we're looking at this, Heather, so the 47 kilo champion, the 52, the 57, and everyone up is going to be pulling over 400. So, like, minimum as a female in USA powerlifting, like raw powerlifting, the highest level, you're all deadlifting over 400 no matter what weight class, which is
Yep,
crazy.
that is crazy. And it's also possible that we see a new American record in the deadlift in all three of those weight classes too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's at the point where it's so competitive that yeah, every big huge meet like this, there's every record is falling.
Yeah, no, that's true, definitely. And that's awesome for the sport.
So, do we know anything about Robin Davis? Davis, I think it's her. We talked about Allie, right? We've talked about Allie too.
We didn't mention Ellie, but she's
She's
definitely
right
had a
around there.
yeah, she's definitely had a strong training cycle, so I'm excited to see what she can do too.
Okay.
But
She's
I
hit
think we
PRs
can
on
go,
squats and deadlifts.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's hit I think somewhere around 10 kilo PRs on both of those in training, so just a matter of bringing it together in a few days.
Okay. So we're gonna say Scanlon and Paraki 1 and 2 for sure. Lock those in.
Yeah, I think Amanda Shea has a chance to be right there too. She was fighting with
Mm-hmm.
us pretty close at the Arnold. It was Amanda Shea and Paraki who were going head to head at the Arnold. And I think Amanda Shea pulled 192.5 at the Arnold. We were able to pull 190 to win at the time, but it was still very close, and I'm sure both of them have made progress, and we'll see where they end up.
Okay. I think we can move on to the 63s.
Yeah,
So this is the 83s for women. This is
what's that
as
mean?
well. It's like as talked about. I would say the women's side as far as the matchups head to head. So like the 83s is what's super popular. Everybody's asking about that, and I think the
Hmm.
63s are the equivalent for the women, right? I think essentially it's people are thinking, okay, Jennifer Thompson or Sam Calhoun, and see who can pull. If essentially Sam can pull 490 something, 500, maybe she'll be able to beat Jennifer Thompson.
I think that's I think that's certainly in the cards. You can never count out Jennifer Thompson with her incredible bench and, somehow continuing to make progress. She's actually made consistent squat progress
Yes. Yeah.
since the work on her hip, I believe it was. Um, so I mean, she could end up squatting somewhere around 160 or something like that, maybe more. And if she does that, that's going to be almost impossible to beat. But if she leaves the door open by missing a squat or a bench, then I think Sam can definitely pull for the win. And I think Sam is probably capable of pulling somewhere around 500.
Damn, that is crazy. I feel like when everybody's like you're 18, 19 years old, you're getting into powerlifting. I guess that's a new generation. Like everybody's trying to deadlift 500 pounds. That's like the first big milestone. And
Hmm.
now, like your 63s and then up as females are all doing that drug free.
Yeah, yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. So okay, I definitely have seen Jennifer's bench go up. To I saw like
Yeah.
280 for 5 the other day, which seems very very showing, I guess, of a PR there, or at least around the 315 mark. Um, so I would definitely say she's going to be at least strong there. Bench is good. So the squat, the 155 is what she hit at the Arnold, the Grand Prix. Um, maybe, yeah, like you said, even hitting 155 again, doing great on bench would be enough to be like, this is out of range unless Sam can pull 507 or something huge.
Yeah, but I think if we go back to the Worlds, I think Sam also missed a squat. I think she had a tough call on depth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she's been when Sam works with Matt Gary as far as attempt selection, they've been nailing it. Like every attempt
Right.
has been a perfect grinder on her third. So if he's in her corner again, I think that's just it's going to be crazy.
So I talked
Um,
to Matt, and they are definitely working together. Um, so I would definitely say, okay, we've got to give the, accuracy to them. They're going to hit everything dead on,
Hmm.
and as long as Sam hits depth, I think obviously another 8 for 9, 9 for 9 day, which is right there to beat Jennifer. I don't know what she'll have for deadlift. It's kind of hard to see from Jennifer Thompson's deadlift training. It's kind of like the touch and go deadlifts,
Yeah.
sumo. So I have no idea really where it's at. Would assume probably around the same. Um, so yeah, I think it's going to be if Jennifer goes 155, 160, it's going to be tough for Sam to win.
Yeah, definitely. And if Jen Thompson can, basically match her PRs on squat and bench and then pull somewhere around 200 to 205, that automatically makes Sam have to pull, somewhere around 500 to win. So that's already difficult without, factoring in potential progress on squat or bench there. So
Yeah.
there's a few other lifters we have to talk about here too, because it's not just Jen and
Yeah,
Sam.
I mean, there's a
Although,
there's a lot to talk about though. I feel like those two are definitely the top two, but yeah,
yeah.
there's several others. You can go for it.
Yeah, so this is going to be Jennifer Milliken's first national meet as a 63, and it seems like she's been making a ton of progress in training, which you can expect when allowing yourself to eat a little bit more freely and not having to worry about weight cuts. And I know she's excited about that and enjoying that process. From what I've seen, she's made some good progress, pretty much across the board. I think the bench seems to be going up. I think it might still take some time for her to develop her lifts in this weight class enough to battle with those top two.
Mhm.
But we certainly can't count her out just based on her competitive history.
Yeah, I mean, she was very, very, very lean at 57,
Hmm.
and just not the same. There's several others that will come to mind that were in that boat where you are very, very lean and you're getting very slowed progress, and all of a sudden you jump up a little bit, and now the steroid-like gains are coming in. You know,
Yeah, and it just takes time for that to really come to fruition. Sometimes it doesn't happen in that first training cycle. It might take, a year or two for her to really see what her potential is in this weight class.
right? So as far as we know, is there anybody else? Is there anybody else in that division? You think?
You could probably talk about Jasmine.
Oh yeah, Jasmine's right there. I think no, I don't think too many people even know who this is. And it's funny is like she's a friend of mine. She's one of my lifters' girlfriend who is in this area. She's brand new. Only have competed in 3 meets now. 3 or 4 meets now. A couple local meets, raw nationals previously at 72 kilos, and then dropped down. She is, like I said, brand new, learning this game. It's funny. It's like she doesn't even know kind of what the numbers are on the board. She just kind of does what she's told, and she's crazy, crazy strong, crazy jacked. And I'm expecting her actually to place over Jennifer Milliken. So
Okay.
in the third spot, from what I've seen in training, I think there's going to be a lot there, and we'll have to see how it plays out. Again, with someone new like that in the big limelight of what the Raw Nationals prime time is, it's going to be tough to handle the nerves, I think. But I'm pulling for her, and I definitely want to see her upset some people and make her name.
Yeah, definitely. It's always cool to see new talent come into the sport too.
Did you see one of her last deadlifts? I think like I think maybe I showed you like a very 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 light 400 deadlift.
Yeah, I saw.
All right. One more name that I do want to talk about on 63s is Jennifer Combs. She's actually a junior lifter, 63. I think so. Maybe she may have just aged out, but she was actually a USPA lifter that has switched over. Do you remember who that is? She competed at the USPA or IPL Worlds in
Okay.
2014 with me, and I was
Oh,
like, all
nice.
right, hey, I'll see you at Raw Nationals next year, and then she ended up. I think she had a kid. I think she had a child, and took time on. She came back to it. She really, started taking off again, and then did a USAPL meet. And now look at her now. I guess she'll be very competitive. I don't see her placing. any higher than where I think she's nominated at, like fifth, maybe fifth or sixth. So it still is kind of cool to see some of the newer talent, I guess, from the juniors or whatever, move over from USPA to these bigger, huge 1,200 lifter meets at Raw Nationals.
Definitely. I
All
think
right.
we're good on 63s, right?
Yeah, we can move on. You know, talk about 72s.
Yes. All right, so moving on to 72s, like we were talking about before, this is another class that is wide open with Kim Walford not competing, who's been the champion for quite some time. So this one, I don't even know who to pick for this one because Chloe Dublin has the highest nominated total, but she was a little bit off at Worlds. I'm not sure what exactly she was working around at the time, but we don't know if she's at full strength yet. And the rest of the field here for 72s is very close, so it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I have seen some stuff from Kristen that that I guess I would say like her deadlift and squat has definitely improved fast when she committed to moving up to 72s.
Mhm.
Something like a 210, 215 deadlift.
Wow,
Uh,
that'd be
that
good
would
for her.
be huge, and I don't know how Chloe's been doing. I don't know that I've seen a lot of her posts, so it's hard to say how much she's improved since Worlds. But the
Hmm.
numbers at Worlds were definitely a lot lower than what she's been able to do before. I think her bench was the only one that was still really solid. So,
Yeah, she PR'd
yeah.
her bench at Worlds, I know that. But the other ones were down like 15, 20 kilos from what they have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. So who else do we have? We have Rory, right? Rory should be right up there
Hmm.
too.
Yeah, Rory's coming in with a huge bench. She benched 270 recently
Mm-hmm.
and 260 at Bench Nationals about a month ago. And I think that was a pretty comfortable lift for her. So, we'd be expecting a bench somewhere around 120.
Yeah. Some.
And let's see. Oh, we got Madeline Scott competing, who Natalie Hansen here coaches, and she's a little bit of a newcomer as far as nationals is concerned, at least. But she's certainly going to put up some big numbers. 400 plus squat, maybe a 200 plus bench, and then we'll see on deadlift. But that she's going to be right in the mix with them too.
She's from Alaska, right?
She's in Washington, I believe.
Washington. Okay. We also have a couple others. So Michael Davis' sister, Jordan Davis from Texas, she is very competitive too. She should be right in there. I think she's kind of a sleeper that not too many people know about. She's only I don't know that she's done more than maybe one other national meet, maybe collegiate nationals, but I think she's gonna show up and kind of turn some heads. So I think we have Jordan Davis, and then the other one is Ellen Liverpool.
Yeah.
Ellen's squat and deadlift are really, really high up there. I think the only thing setting her back is just the bench.
Hmm.
So besides that, I mean, I think that covers those. I think it's going to be, you know, this will be my order, right? So I wrote this one out. I say Kristen in first,
Okay.
Chloe two, Rory three, Ellen four, and then I guess it's going to be Madeline and Jordan right around there. I'm not 100% sure what Madeline can bench.
It's going to probably be somewhere around 90 to 95, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. All these girls are pulling mid or high fours,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, squatting over four.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be my pick. Who do you think is going to actually win? You go Chloe or do you go Kristen?
It's hard to say without seeing any recent training from Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'd probably pick her if she comes in at full strength because I think if she does, she's strong enough across the board. She's a very well-rounded lifter. She's strong enough to be ahead there. But I would say her first, Kristen second, and I think the race for third is where it's going to be really
Close. Yeah.
close. Jordan that you mentioned coming in there too. So
Mhm.
it's a toss up there. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that covers the 72s pretty well. Again, there's a couple sleepers that I don't think a lot of people know. It's the thing is like when 72s, or I'm sorry, when Kim left the 72s and kind of left USAPL, it's like now all this new talent from other divisions or everything scatters in, and then we're trying to figure out who is really up there now. Um, that's interesting and it's good. I like when someone like Jennifer Milliken moves up and then we get all these new people kind of rushing in. It makes it more interesting, for sure.
Yeah, I think pretty much every weight class above 47 is going to be really interesting as far as the battle for the title.
Hmm. Okay, so we can move to the 84s.
Hmm.
There's really only two here.
Yep.
I looked around. I don't think there's any other sleepers that are really that competitive 100% or all the way around. We got Daniela and Amanda Lawrence.
You were cutting out for a second there, but I think this matchup is pretty highly anticipated. You know, similar to the 63s and the 83s on the men's side.
Hmm.
At least for the 1-2 matchup. I know a lot of people have been following both Daniela and Amanda. You know, they're putting up just insane numbers in training on squat and deadlift. And you know, Daniela just benched 300 recently. Amanda's been improving on bench too. So I think just because Daniela is still pretty far ahead on bench, I think she's probably at least, you know, 15, 20 kilos ahead on bench press.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be enough, even if they're, you know, pretty much tied on squat and deadlift. I think that'll be enough to keep her in the lead. But you know, it's going to be awesome to see the numbers they put up because what they've been doing in training, you know, this summer and fall has just been ridiculous.
Yeah, I think for sure the bench is the silent killer. It's the one that's going to put you away where, if you train with high standards in training, you prepare for the pauses. It's super easy. You just lay down and bench. You just you just hit it. So even if Daniela can't bench, 300, 292,
Yeah,
287,
yeah,
290, any of those are going to be enough to be ahead for sure. The thing is like the standards in training. I know Daniela is on it. Like everything is like very crisp, technical. Amanda, I think honestly, is probably going to be stronger, and that's my. I think over time she can be for sure. She has a lot of raw, like just general strength, and I feel like
oh
it's
yeah,
just time. And I feel like Danielle has just been in this. It's going to be tough. Amanda's going to need to squat something huge, and Daniela is going to have to miss in order for it to actually be closer, enough to be in range for Amanda to beat her. Just because the bench is significantly higher. I still think Amanda might be able to bench like 270 maybe. But that's a 12, 10 kilo difference.
yeah. That's
Uh,
what I mean.
yeah,
I think even
it's
if things fall into place perfectly on bench press, I still think Daniela is probably going to be somewhere around 10 kilos ahead at least on that lift.
mhm.
And I think they're probably going to be pretty close on the other one. So I think that might be enough to separate it. And it might be something where Danielle is going into deadlifts a little bit ahead, and Amanda might have to take a shot that maybe she can't hold on to or can't lock out or something like that.
Yeah, and then Daniela's obviously deadlifts are great too. I mean, she's going to pull around mid fives. I think Amanda can. I
Hmm.
don't know. I've seen a lot of the strapped deadlifts or a little bit forward lockouts.
Yeah,
It's been a little bit tougher for her. So I definitely am going to give it to Daniela. I think Amanda's still going to have a really, really strong day, and maybe put a big squat record on there, and that would be awesome to see just for her because I'm a fan of her.
yeah, it's crazy because I remember Amanda last year. I think she took the squat record during the day session, and it was like 207 and a half or 208, something like that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, now they're doing that for like high reps in training. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
For real. Like,
Yeah.
and she's a 4 to 5, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Even if they might be a little bit borderline on depth sometimes, it's insane how much both of them have improved.
Yeah. So we're gonna give it to Danielle on that one.
I think so, but I'd like to see a good fight there.
Yeah. So that's gonna be that's it. No other weight classes in the women's because Bonica is the clear
Yeah.
favorite. No questions asked.
Yep.
Um, I didn't even make notes for that one. I just kind of look at it and like, all right, that's it.
Yeah, that's fine. And they have a full flight of 84 plus this year, so there's going to be some new lifters that get a chance to show out in prime time, so that'll be fun for them too.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else that you want to mention about 84 plus? I mean, I think it's just Bonica's show and Becky Holcomb. That's it.
I don't think I think she's prepping for Equipped Worlds, I believe.
Oh, okay then. Then
So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna move over to the men's section now, right?
Yep.
We got the 59s. Okay, there's basically three dogs in this fight, and two of them are Joey Flex lifters,
Hmm.
and a new one from Cole Metz. Cole Metz is a very crazy strong deadlifter. He's pulled 556 at 130,
Wow.
which is crazy deadlift. I remember when the competitive numbers, I guess in 2014 to 15 nationals, like pulling over 400, 450 ish was great.
Yeah. Yeah. Was
Um,
that in a meet?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Cole hit 556, 252 and a
Wow.
half in
That's awesome.
Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's huge deadlift. But Andres definitely squats way more. Is in my opinion a little bit more of a three, triple threat. I guess he squats 500 easily in training. Benches,
Hmm.
I think close to three, and then pulls. Uh, I think probably a little over 500 or at 500. Um, Cole, from what I've seen database wise, hasn't been up there. It's basically just the huge deadlift and kind of holds it together from there. And then the third dog is Shorty Sadang. He, I think, was injured for a while, and now he's kind of coming back to USA powerlifting scene and trying to get back up there. So I've seen his bench. His bench has been great. I'm not too sure about what he's going to be able to squat. I think he switched to high bar, and it's been kind of rough for him dealing with
Hmm.
an injury.
Yeah.
So if you think I'm missing something, I mean, you go for it. You go for it on the 59s, but I think I covered a lot. I generally think it's going to be Andres, Cole, and then Shorty from 1 to 3.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Um, I'm a fan of Shorty. He's a good dude, so I'm going to be rooting for him to do well. But I would imagine his squat probably isn't where it needs to be to hang with those guys on top there.
Yeah.
But I do think a top three is definitely in the cards for him.
Yeah, I mean Cole is ranked first, and then it's Andres, and then Shorty. But Shorty definitely his bench and deadlift are right up there. I think it's just squat that's holding him back, and I think it's probably to do with the injury. So yeah, that's my order.
Cool.
Cool.
I'm I'm with that.
Yeah, we'll do 66. Um, you can kind of talk about some of those.
Okay, so Charles Okpoko is a fantastic lifter. I mean, he did amazing at Worlds, put up a world record total, world record squat, and I would imagine he's going to be in similar form for this meet. So I think he's probably going to be untouchable in first. But we can't count out, someone like Jonathan Garcia who is just as strong on squat and bench at least. I mean, he's one of the best in the world on both those lifts for this weight class, but just a little bit behind on deadlift. And I think some of that's probably just related to how he's built, makes him struggle a little bit more on deadlift. But those guys are both going to put up just insane numbers on squat and bench.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I think Charles and Jonathan both squat nearly the same. I think Jonathan's just a little less consistent um, with squat. Charles is the open world record holder, equipped and raw, equipped, multiple equipped champ, um, world champ, open. I mean, he's has the experience. He has the full arsenal. I think I don't see anybody else coming out to beat him. Rodrigo Manzo is another one of those. That's Joey's another flex lifter, 66 kilo. He's a huge deadlifter, but it's not enough to hang right there. So
Hmm.
it's going to be Charles for sure, and then Jonathan, and then Rodrigo Manzo. It's tough. It's definitely going to be Charles in first, and then it's going to either be Rodrigo or Jonathan, flip flopping depending on if Manzo can pull enough.
Yeah, and I see some names on here that I haven't seen before, so it'll be good to see some new faces in prime time too.
Yeah, Rodrigo Manzo is a 66 junior that kind of, I think, recently switched over to USAPL, California guy. I think he just missed like 617 at a USAPL local meet in California.
Wow.
He's crazy strong as far as deadlift goes. His squat and bench are still a little bit behind, so that's what's holding him back against Charles. Um, but yeah, I think being the bigger deadlifter, he may get the opportunity to pull over Jonathan and just see what he can load up. His deadlifts in training, I've seen Rodrigo's deadlifts in training have looked super easy, but it's kind of one of those things where a huge deadlifter, you just never know how much they're really gonna have. So we'll see.
Hmm.
The other name that we didn't mention is Matt Aramoni. He is actually only in the juniors and he is in the morning session. So no matter what, he is not in contention for open uh, at all. Even though I think his total would actually be right below Charles, it's not going to matter because he didn't register for the open, which I definitely know Sean and them that that's Sean's lifter Noriega. They're definitely upset. I think it's just kind of one of those things where they didn't anticipate him being that strong right now. He's just made crazy progress moving from 59 to 66, and all his numbers have blown up like crazy.
I've seen some of the deadlifts. I have
You cut out.
deadlift in training.
You cut out a little bit.
No, I was saying with the Remini, I've seen some of his deadlifts that he's done recently. I think he pulled like 295 recently, but I haven't seen what he's been doing on squat and bench.
Yeah, I think he's actually pulled a little over 300 with straps, and he's done a lot, just crazy numbers. It's just kind of one of those things. Will he be able to do it on the platform when it counts? And I say
Right.
yes. I say yes. He'll hit a huge, 305 maybe deadlift, which is ridiculous at 66, which is just destroy the American record, the unofficial world record.
Hmm.
But as a junior, so it's a junior, and a lot of people will miss this because he's in the morning session, which is unfortunately is just how it played out. Um, his bench is really good. He benched 320 something in training,
Wow,
and
that's
has
good.
squatted close, like he's done like 440 for a triple or maybe three or four reps. So his numbers are ridiculous, just skyrocketed, and not just as a deadlift specialist. It's 100% triple threat. It's just the deadlift sticks out to you because it's just so nonsensical.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. It's Charles, then Rodrigo, and then Jonathan. I think Rodrigo will get the opportunity to deadlift last, and he'll load up, enough to place over Garcia.
Okay. I'm gonna bank on Garcia being able to squat and bench enough to be out of reach there, so I'd go with him in second. But um, I don't really know enough about the rest of the lifters to really see how that third place battle is gonna go.
Yeah, I think that's enough for the 66s.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So the 74s. This is a very deceivingly competitive division. I think we look at Taylor and we say, okay, he's so high nominated. It's kind of one of those things where who else really is close? I think there are some people that are close. It's just Taylor is so consistent, has the experience, has the coaching, has every little detail is perfect, and he always comes in 100% dialed in. It's going to be really tough for him to be beaten, even if he makes mistakes, just because
Yeah.
a 1-2 mistake doesn't necessarily take him. Even if he missed a big squat and a big bench, his deadlift can definitely make up for it. He still has one of the biggest deadlifts in the 74 division.
Hmm. And that's been the biggest thing for Taylor is the deadlift progress lately. Um, because he was already pretty dominant in squat and bench with being in world record territory on both of those on a regular basis. But now that his deadlift is coming around too, I mean, it's going to make him pretty untouchable.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think so. Um, there are definitely, so I said it's kind of deceivingly competitive. Although Atwood is the number one spot, I think the 2 and 3 spot is definitely like very up for grabs.
Hmm.
Um, so I coach Michael C. He is the 74 newer lifter that I think people are definitely overlooking, just because he had a one off meet at Worlds where he only got his opening deadlift. But yeah, I mean, his squat and bench you've seen have been fantastic.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit there, but yeah, his training in general has been looking really good, so I would expect him to have a good meet.
Yeah, he may or may not have benched the Open American record in training, but we can move on. So Stephen LeHue, he's definitely the poster boy, I guess. The 74 kilo junior, strong deadlifter. He definitely is a little inconsistent when it comes to like finishing the lockout. He definitely uses the balance a ton. I don't necessarily, from what I've heard, he's definitely going to go for broke. He wants to be Atwood no matter what, no matter what it takes. He wants
Mm.
to load it up and try, which may not be the best idea because if Taylor's still that far ahead, um, a Hail Mary 340 kilo deadlift doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense when you can lose so much ground and other lifters will definitely pass you up.
But I mean, that's been the case for him at pretty much every nationals that we've seen him at.
Yeah.
He's taken a Hail Mary third attempt on deadlift and missed, and he's certainly a great lifter, and those numbers might be in range, but it's he's taken some big jumps on some of those thirds to try to be in range for where Taylor is, and it's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is because there was a bigger gap between him and the rest of the other lifters that
Yeah,
he
yeah,
felt content and kind of secure with doing that. I
mm,
do not at all think that's the case now. I think
I agree.
Michael will definitely be right there, and regardless of what Michael can deadlift, based on the squats, benches, that's he'll be ahead of Blake going into deadlifts by a significant amount. It's just how much Michael will deadlift, and then if Lihu decides to go for broke and try to be Atwood, then he can, and then that'll probably end up costing him that second spot. So
Mm, yeah, I
that's
see what you.
definitely the 1, 2, and 3 are those three. After that, now this is kind of the little bit more up for grabs. We have Michael Black, Eric Lapointe, and James Miller. I'm not sure if you are familiar with them.
I am a little bit, and it
Okay.
seems like Eric Lapointe's training has been improving lately. I know he opened a gym this summer, I believe, and certainly training slowed down a little bit with that whole process, and I can relate to that. But he seems to be doing a lot better now, so I'm hoping he puts together a good meet. But I think the podium for top five when we're looking for second through fifth, I think it's pretty open for this weight class.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean Eric's deadlifts are crazy. I think people know him for that. His deadlift for reps, like he can if he can hit it for a single, he can pause it for a triple,
That's
which
true.
is crazy. It's like I have no idea kind of what to expect from him, and I think he's kind of like just curious, like what will we load up, and I think he's just wanting to play the game and see what he can put on to jump for placing.
Hmm.
Michael Black cuts a lot of weight. He posts about it, so I know that. And then James Miller is the new guy from Georgia. He's a very crazy strong deadlifter, very back, heavy rounding, but can pull 650, which 650 at 163 is nothing to scoff at. He still squats 500 and benches high twos, I think, maybe threes. So he's right up there too. I think really with it's crazy if you look at this. all of these lifters have deadlifted 600 plus in a meet at
Yeah.
74. They all bench. I think James might be the only one that's not over 300, and then are all squatting significantly over 500. Which, like, if you think about it, from 2014, 2015, those were like 83 numbers. For sure,
Oh yeah, for
83s.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and now everybody's like, I see, Atwood closing in closer to 700, Steven closing in on closer to 700, Eric Lapointe closing in closer to 700 on deadlift, and James Miller closer to 700 on deadlift, which is ridiculous. All of these heavy populated weight classes are getting very, very competitive, and the numbers are just getting out of control.
I agree.
So I'm picking this order. So I'll just kind of quickly go Taylor in one, Michael in two, Blake three, Eric Lapointe in four, and then Michael Black in fifth.
Okay. I think that sounds about right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so now is the one everybody is asking about. We are on the 83s. I already have my ideas set up about how I think this is going to go down. So I'll let you kind of talk and just kind of say what you want to say about it.
Mm, that's tough. I know who I'm rooting for, but I don't want to be biased in this. Um, but I'm there's a lot of guys that I would be rooting for in this weight class. I mean, it's meat there. I've known Sean for quite a while, and I'd certainly be rooting for him too. You use one of the TSA athletes, and he has a huge deadlift, and worked with him a little bit last year when he had that crazy third attempt, the 340, I think it was at nationals last year. So there's a lot to be excited about with this weight class. I think a lot of people are just talking about the Russell versus Sean for one and two, but there's really a lot of great lifters in this weight class, and some crazy deadlifters too. Vernon Williams can can pull.
Yeah.
He can probably pull around what you can, to be honest, and
For
that'll
sure.
be that'll be exciting too.
Yeah, I think Vernon probably will not be up for the maybe 1, 2, 3 spot just because his squat and bench are not there yet, and it's just kind of one of those things where he's a little bit new still, and this is
Hmm.
his first like big meet. Like he's only done local Texas meets, which is a whole different animal here. Texas local meets are the Wild West for sure. So yeah, we don't know how that's gonna play out. He like I said, I still pick him top five, top six. So he'll be right there with all the other competitive 83s. But let's talk about the first two, right? This is what people want. They want to talk about Russell and Sean.
Hmm.
So I thought about this a lot. I'm picking Sean because I see it this way. So Sean definitely has the bigger bench, bigger deadlift. That's 2 to 1. Okay, I don't see Russell squatting more than 20 kilos more than Sean does. Okay, so maybe Russell can hit 310, and from what I've heard with Joey, Joey is aiming for around 310. I don't think that they're going to go for 317, which I know Russell wants,
Hmm.
700. I see them going for 310 at most. So that's 310 if he hits depth and there's no issues there. If Sean, in my opinion, if Sean is smart, he goes for 290, no more, no less, and takes that and is happy with that and calls that a W.
Okay.
Russell benches about ten kilos less than Sean, about 190, and that gives a 10 kilo difference. There's still 10 kilos up on Russell, and I see Sean hitting 10 kilos more than Russell. We saw Russell hit 295, 650, albeit injured. That was 650 at Worlds. I don't see him adding another 50 pounds on that bench. I mean, on that deadlift. No matter how healthy he is, from what I've seen in training, I don't see anything to reflect a 700-pound deadlift. Where Sean is pulled 685 with a little bit more training stress and fatigue. Um, I'm betting Sean will be able to pull a little over 7. Uh, and this is, again, if both of them are flawless, this is the way that I think it'll end up. Which, again, I think that would mean Sean would have to pull for the win. He has to be able to hit it. And I trust Sean to hit a bigger third attempt deadlift without losing balance. Whereas a lighter one, I feel like if you've seen him with those lighter earlier lifts, he loses balances on an opener or second attempt. And it's kind of one of those things where, if it's a big heavy lift, he can not. It's a full out lift, and I've seen him not miss those just on balance. One of the things is with Sean, he is basically he said it on podcasts. I'm just gonna go for broke. He wants to beat him so bad. He doesn't care about third, doesn't care about fourth. He wants to beat Russell, and that's good. That's the mentality you should have. You need to be aggressive if you're gonna go after Russell. It's just the fact if Sean misses on depth, or loses a balance, loses pull on a balance, that might be enough where, hey, it's super super risky to try to go for this, and then he falls behind 3 or 4. But I definitely know it's way closer than people think. And again, I think it's all that matters is just execution. I think Russell definitely is more consistent than Sean. I think the numbers reflect that as far as the database goes. I just think Sean actually is coming into this meet, 1,000%.
Yeah, I think we've seen they both maybe struggle sometimes with depth on their squats, that's more just with how their technique is. Sean has the wide stance that's a little bit borderline sometimes, and Russell's kind of knees forward and kind of looks like he's hitting the hole, but his legs are huge, and even if he bottoms out, sometimes it's a little bit borderline on depth. And I think Russell squats in training recently where he did a triple with 635 I think it was, and then a double with 650 something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of those were high.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
if just my unbiased opinion from what I saw, and he took that side view of the 650 set, and I think those were
That still looked high.
pretty obviously high to me.
Yeah.
If I was sitting in the judge's chair at least. So I'm sure he's aware of that, and he's going to try to sink those further in the meet, just like he tried to do at Worlds. We told him when he was going for the record attempt that he had to sink it, had to stay tight, and all those things. And he'll be aware of it
Mm-hmm.
and do what he needs to do. But I think that's going to end up limiting his top end strength on squat.
Agreed.
They'll probably end up being a little bit conservative just to make sure that he hits depth and he gets at least 2 squats and hopefully 3. But I think if he's hitting depth lower than he does in training, I don't think he's going to squat more than like 300 to 305.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we'll see how that goes. But I would have a feeling that's more where he ends up if they're kind of taking a little bit of a conservative third. Um, and that would still put him in a good position. But it's like you said, it's Sean, if he makes all his squats, is probably going to end up around 285, 290, and maybe 15, 20 kilos ahead for Russell. And then after bench, I think Sean's going to be able to make up maybe 5 to 10 kilos on that. So, maybe Russell's 10 kilos ahead or so going into deadlifts, and I think Sean will be able to pull 10 kilos more than what Russell does. Um, I'm just kind of guessing with numbers there, but I'd agree that Sean's deadlift training has seemingly gone really well, and I know his deadlift tends to taper like crazy, where he's moving weights much faster than they were in training. So I think that's been a consistent trend for him. So as long as he can get past the balance issue and make 3 pulls, I think that'll put him where he needs to be.
Yeah, I definitely think we're on the same page with that. It's again, like I said in the beginning, it's like all execution. Whoever makes the most lifts, that's who's going to end up winning. I definitely know if Sean doesn't get 290, 285 at least, it's over.
Yeah, unless Russell has another issue with deadlift again,
Or
like he did
mhm.
at Worlds, where Russell's deadlift just wasn't there, and he was having a little bit trouble with technique, and the bar was getting forward on him. So, if that, for whatever reason, if that happens again, and his deadlift isn't where they expect it to be, then that still leaves the door wide open. So we won't really know until the bar hits the floor
Yeah.
or the plates that are on the bar.
So okay, we don't want to just talk about just them two. Rob Ali is definitely right there as far as squats goes. He squats around 300. Should be around there. I don't know what it'll be fresh in a meet or with a water cut or whatever. I think he'll still be around 290-ish, 295. Rob actually probably will deadlift more than Russell, I think. So I think if he deadlifts, 300, I mean not 300, 305, 310, 315, that'll be enough for third. Just because he does not bench enough, I would be willing to bet he'd be benching 175 at most, which again that's still 15 kilos underneath Russell, let alone Sean, probably around 30. It's not enough. So
Mm.
I think that just puts him out of the 1-2 picture. I still think he's competitive. I still think he's probably the third spot. Just not enough to contend with either of those two. What do you think?
I think that sounds about right. How do you feel about the big deadlifters and where they might end up with UU and Vernon?
So I kind of think both of them, their deadlifts are great. The squats and bench are too far off to really be competitive. Um, Only squatting mid fives and benching, mid threes is, very underneath Russell and Sean or Rob or Marcus or Jamar. Jamar squats, like lower 600s, benches four. It's too much to catch Jamar. Marcus in the same boat. Marcus is around the same 620-ish, 400-ish, maybe 180-ish probably.
Mm.
So it's too much. It's too much to make up, and that's including the fact that that we're just for the sake of argument, we're saying that both Vernon and UU go 6 for 6. I still think they're so far behind that even if they had a perfect squat and bench, they're still too far to be considered up for the 1, 2, 3, even 4 spot. They're going to be
Yeah.
contending for the fifth. I know I've heard on podcasts that you might be able to pull 770, 780. He's TSA fam, and he's a great dude. I just don't think that's realistic from what I've seen from training. I've seen a 700 double that was RP 10.
Mm.
I've seen his training look better last year for deadlifts.
Mm.
Just being completely honest, and
Okay.
then that was where he hit 750 at 11 or 12 and left some of his soul.
Yeah, yeah.
That
That
that that one was tough. Even for the sake of I would say, man, I don't know if that was a good lift. If you watch it, it was very up and down. It kind of rolled down as he transitioned to lockout. That was literally 0.001 pounds or kilos over. Didn't have anything else left.
mhm.
And I think that was kind of one of those things where everything was right on point. If that doesn't happen again, I don't think he even hits 340.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that was a lift that took him from like when we put it in, it was to get to top five,
Yeah.
and we kind of just put that in as a Hail Mary to try to be in that position, and it seemed like it was there because I think the second was like 320 or 322, and looked pretty solid. So you might as well go for it. He
Yeah.
really didn't have anything to lose, so um, if he's made some progress on squat and bench and his deadlift is where they think it might be, then who knows? But I'd agree. I think that sounds more reasonable. Where his deadlift might be a little bit off from last year as far as a third attempt. But even if he's pulling a little bit more than that, that's still going to put him with a extremely competitive total.
Yeah, even with 330, 335, it's going to be competitive. I just don't think it's enough for that 1 through 4 spot. All of the other guys still deadlift a lot. It may end up being where Jamar misses a deadlift because I've seen his deadlift training. He might be good for like 290, but they've been very inconsistent. So I would be willing to bet that they're going to be pulling Jamar or Vernon are going to be pulling. I mean, not Jamar. Vernon or Yu are going to be pulling to pass up Jamar.
Do you think they're going to try to battle back and forth for the deadlift record, or are they going to be more focused on placings? Because I think it could be a situation where both of them are maybe a little bit out of reach of top five or definitely top three. I don't think they're going to be in contention for top three. Um, I'd be
Well,
surprised. I'd be surprised at least. So I think maybe we might see something where those two are going back and forth for the deadlift record instead of a certain placing, and maybe it falls in where that puts them in a good placing too. But
so the deadlift record is that 340, and
right?
I don't see either of them pulling 340.
Okay.
I think Vernon will probably. I think Vernon and you will be around the same. I'd probably be willing to bet like 730 ish. Um,
I would be surprised if one or both of them doesn't attempt that.
730 ish.
No, the 340 and a half or more than that.
You'd be surprised if they don't.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen any of Vernon's top stuff. I've seen him like kill like 635 easy all the time, and I haven't seen the heavy stuff where when you get to these athletes that are hitting crazy singles. It's different, man. You can hit reps all day, and it's not the same. You've got to get really good at the singles. So I don't know. I'm a huge Vernon fan. I'm a huge UU fan. I just don't know what they can really do end range singles. I would probably say UU's gonna try for that. I just don't know that he'll get it.
Yeah, I'm not saying either of them will necessarily get it, but I do have a feeling that at least one or both of them will take a
Try.
shot at that.
Okay. Okay. So who do you have? You have Russell or Sean?
I'm gonna go with Sean.
Okay. And then
Uh, I would say Sean Russell. Um, hmm, third is tough because Marcus is a great squatter, but I think one of the other guys could sneak in there in third. Maybe Rob, like you were saying.
mhm.
So, well, most people only want to hear if we're picking Russ or
I
Sean,
know, I
anyways.
know. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Sean, but I think it's gonna be very close. And I think Sean's gonna be in a position where he's gonna be able to pull what he needs, and I hope it's not another heartbreak situation, and he's able to actually pull it off.
Put
And
it together, yeah.
yeah, because I think he's gonna have the strength for it, and I'd like to see him pull that off.
I would too, man. Yeah, he's one of those that does all the little things right, and I'm a fan of that. So
Hmm.
I definitely pick him. And then Russell in second, Rob in third, Marcus in fourth, Jamar in fifth, and then Vernon in sixth, and then UU in seventh.
Okay. I think you might be able to sneak up a little bit higher. But I'd agree that his deadlift might not be where it was last year.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay. 93s. You can start this one off. I think you'll be a little bit better in this.
So, a lot of familiar faces in 93s that we saw last year. Um, I think Ashton is probably going to be the favorite, and
He for sure is the favorite, but I
yeah,
don't know who for sure is gonna take it.
do you not think Ashton's going to win?
His depth is always an issue. Even I mean he's hits. I think people don't know that he squatted 700 already at a local meet.
Hmm.
Um, but it is a local meet at the gym that he trains at, where those are the judges that are judging. I think he squatted 305 at nationals last year. I think it's just going to be depth is the issue. Like his strength is going to be ridiculous, and that's it. Like I would not be surprised if he tries to squat like 730 something. I just don't think that he'll be able to squat to depth. He has a very equipped style squat.
Yeah, but I still think he'll be able to squat some
You cut out a little bit. Think what?
enough to put him out of reach.
What do you think he'll squat?
I think he'll squat somewhere around 320 to depth, and he might have a third attempt that's even heavier than that. That's probably going to end up a little bit high. I imagine it's going to be a similar situation to what it was last year, where he's strong enough for just a huge squat, but they get a little bit higher as you go.
You think he opens at 305?
Uh, Maybe 300, 305. I could see that. Yeah.
And so you think if he just gets his opener squat, he'll win?
No, I'm saying he'll probably take somewhere around like 320 for a second, and then take something crazy on a third, like maybe a record attempt or something.
No, I know what
Um,
you're saying, but I'm saying if as long as he gets his opener, you think Ashton wins.
no, he needs to get two squats in.
Oh, you don't think okay, okay.
I mean, 305 is still a huge squat for that weight
That's what I'm
class,
saying. That's what I mean.
but
I think if he opens at 305 and hits
but
305, that's
say
enough to
he
win.
opens say he opens at 300 to 305, and that's all he gets,
Hmm.
and say Wilson puts up a squat that's like within 5 or 10 kilos of that, and is close on bench, and maybe can outpull him. That could be close,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable scenario. Um, but again, if Ashton's able to squat, around 700 or more, I think that gap is going to be almost impossible to close. David would probably have to attempt a low 800 type of deadlift, and that doesn't seem like it's there right now based on training. Even though he's cleaned up his deadlifts, and I'm hopeful that he's able to put together a good meet.
Hmm.
I don't know that he's going to be capable of a low 800 type of pull.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he puts it on the bar, if he's in position for that.
So you think it's basically Ashton and Wilson versus each other, and that's it?
Well, you can't count out LS.
Hmm.
Um, he's been in the mix there for years, and huge bencher. Nobody can touch him on bench press in this group. Um, well, maybe some of the guys like Keiko and a few others on the come up can be close on bench, but I'm saying his bench really puts him in a different class. Um, I think it just depends what kind of shape he's in for squat and deadlift.
Hmm.
Seemed like for most of this year he hasn't really been in top form. He still did well with deadlift at Worlds earlier this year. Squat wasn't really where he wanted it, but if he can come with the squat that he's capable of, he's capable of squatting 300 plus when it's good conditions and when he's feeling well, then that would make him tough to beat too. But it seems like he's been having some trouble with his squat for most of this year, and I don't know if that's gonna come together this time or not.
Yeah, I think he was sick at the Arnold and or hurt, and then I think very similar at Worlds, just not 100%. Um, and I think he just did bench nationals and competed at 105. Maybe he's been pretty heavy. I'm not 100% sure. I know he does have to cut significantly at 93.
Yeah, he didn't weigh in super heavy at bench nationals. He weighed in at 97 something, so he's probably like 10 to 12 pounds over on average. Um, Maybe a little bit less, but I mean, that's still a decent amount to cut, but it's not too crazy. And I think for national or for the Arnold earlier this year, he had to cut quite a bit more than that. I think for some of the meets he's had to cut 15, 20 pounds, and that certainly takes a toll on you too.
Right. Okay. So who else do you think is going to be up there? I definitely um, know Sean Moser is someone that no one talks about really because he doesn't post anything.
Yeah,
He's not a flashy guy. He doesn't show off for Instagram. He kind of just does his own thing and shows
but
up
he
to
just
meets
keeps
and
getting
lifts.
better.
Yeah, and he definitely keeps getting better.
Yeah,
He's not an Instagram guy, so he'll just do what he does and then come up and show up and lift. You know.
yeah. Keiko had a tough meet at the Arnold, especially with squat depth, but sure. And if he can put together three squats and be somewhere around 600 or so, with what he's able to bench, he'll be able to put up a pretty big total too.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't. I'm not sleeping on Jonathan. I think he has a lot to cut. I remember the Arnold. He definitely had a lot to cut for that one. So we'll see. I don't. I think you can talk about this because we have myself and Charlie in the morning session out of prime time. There's a couple other people, but I think definitely people are thinking about Charlie for sure.
Yeah, so I think if we're talking about top three, I think Ashton, LS if he's healthy, and David are going to be probably in the top three. But even that's hard to say because we don't know what kind of shape LS is going to be in. We don't know if David's going to be able to complete more than one deadlift. He's had trouble with that in the past. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know if Ashton's going to be able to get a squat to depth, or anything can happen. So besides that, though, I think there's, like you said, there's guys that are in this group and also not in prime time that are capable of being top five or more, especially with some of the progress that we've been seeing in training. I know obviously you've had a great training cycle and we're expecting a big meet. Charlie's certainly looking strong. So um, you guys plus any of these guys here on this list can be top five. It's kind of a toss up.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's other 93s that no one is talking about. There's a teenager, Austin Schrader, that Sean Noriega
Hmm.
coaches. That I don't think Sean knows that I know that he coaches. But I know he's doing great, and he's like brand new, and this is his first nationals.
Yeah.
So there's him. There's Kyle Power,
Yep.
Evan Chafee's lifter. He's a huge deadlifter. He should deadlift a crazy amount. I just don't know what he's squatting and benching. So there's him, Austin Schrader. There's Matt Trahern, huge squatter and deadlifts a lot. Just has issues with grip on deadlift and squatting to depth. His squats are very strong, but definitely has looked high in training, very high in training. And we have Daniel Libre, who is very, I would say, low profile. He doesn't follow anybody on Instagram. Doesn't really make himself known or puts his stuff out there. He has deadlift 744 in a meet. He has squatted 650 in a meet and benched 370 ish. So he's definitely a threat from what I've seen in training. His deadlifts are very soft and his squats are all over the place. So it's hard to say what he'll really be at in the meet, but his numbers as far as raw strength are like certainly up there. It's just hard to really tell for sure what he'll be able to hit on the big stage, prime time, with high standards, with everybody watching. It's definitely a different game.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy how deep some of these classes are now. I mean, we're talking about other ones that are heavily populated where you could have 10 or more athletes in just one weight class that get like a 500 Wilks or more.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure. I mean, myself, Charlie, Austin Baraki from Barbell Medicine are all well within range for a 500 Wilks, and we're not even in the prime time,
mhm.
or significantly more than 500, and we're not even in
Yeah,
prime time, and that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, Charlie won the World Championships as an 83 last year, not even in prime time, and that's just kind of how this year went. I think they're going to try to change some of that next year. Um, so that they include everybody. But it's kind of one of those things where you have to decide: are we going to have two huge flights or one smaller flight, and then okay, we got to do this with everybody. And so there's a lot that kind of I don't know that necessarily doesn't make sense, but it may not favor the lifters that everybody wants to see.
yeah, for sure. I think this year they just tried to have an even distribution for each weight class rather than factoring in certain totals for the cutoff.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the main classes have 10 lifters and some of the smaller classes have eight. But that's basically how it's split up, and it doesn't seem to be split up by a certain qualifying total.
Yeah, and they're also trying to look at natural breaks in the totals. And,
Hmm.
if there's a natural break that's large enough, they're going to cut it off there rather than trying to include more people that may all be within their same range.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. This year it seems like they didn't do that because they purposely just included the top 10 qualifying totals for pretty much every class except some of the smaller classes like 47s have 8,
Uh,
52s have 8.
I
So
got you.
on the days where they're cramming together more flights, those weight classes all have 8 lifters, and then all the other days, each weight class has 10. So I think it's just an arbitrary number like that. It's not based on not certain totals and cutoffs like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. Okay. So yeah, my sleepers on this one are definitely Sean Moser.
Hmm.
Um, Whoever is comes out on the end in the morning session, whether that be me, Charlie, or someone else, um, that total is going to be pushed pretty damn high, and I think that will definitely be top five total. I don't know where in the top five. Uh, could definitely be a little bit higher. Could definitely be a little bit lower in that top five. You never know. I don't know how it's going to play out. And it'll be interesting for me as someone that'll be competing in the morning to just kind of just sit back later and watch, see what happens. That'll
Okay.
be kind of exciting and fun for me to just chill and not really worry too much about anything else, but kind of like, oh shit, let's see what they do, let's see what this guy does, or I think that'll be that's the silver lining for me. I think.
Yeah, it takes some of the pressure off for the morning guys. You ideally you'd want to be in the position where you can, jockey around for placings with deadlift attempts and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun for both the coach and athlete, and it allows for a more competitive environment. But at the same time, there's some really competitive lifters in the morning that will be in the mix for placings,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes some of the pressure off for them. They can just put up the best number they can, and then the guys at night have to figure out a way to beat it, basically, and that's just how it is.
Definitely. Okay, I think that's fair. I think David Wilson is a huge friend of mine. I always pull for him at all these meets. I go to a lot of his local meets. I support him in his gym and everybody there. I definitely want to see him pull, low eights, and I think if he does, that'll be, all he can ask for. I think he will not be disappointed no matter where he places as long as he does that. I do not see him beating Ashton unless Ashton only gets a very low opener on squat and or bombs out
Yeah.
on depth. I think that's the only way that can happen. Um, but again, David has to just do his thing, make lifts, and then see where he's at come time to deadlift.
And we didn't even mention David Ricks, who not long ago had or yeah, not long ago set the world record squat. I think that was like a year and a half ago or something like that. I mean, he struggles with squat depth, and struggled to get a squat in last year. So we'll have to see what kind of shape he comes in. But he's always right there too.
I think the problem with David is not necessarily just the depth. He may get one in, but if he opens 628 and only gets 628 on depth, and misses the other ones, um, that's not enough. Where his deadlift is still pretty far behind the pack. I mean, all the names that we mentioned are deadlifting 7 or more. So it's kind of difficult for him. I think is the main thing.
Yeah, he's got a tough spot to be in when it comes down to deadlifts. But you always say for Dave Ricks, if he can get 3 squats in, especially with the kind of squat that he's capable of, then that would that would obviously put him in contention.
Yeah. I would say this though: if David Ricks goes 3 for 3 on squat, um, I definitely think Ashton will still go 3 for 3 on squat.
Yeah, that would probably mean that they're being a little bit friendly on depth
That's
because
that's what I would say.
yeah, I agree. That makes sense.
So okay, I think that's enough for me on 93. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to see that one.
All right. All right, so 105s. This is the exciting one for the TSA fam because we got Ben Rice and we got Garrett Blevins, which I guess he's kind of still TSA, and they are both right up there. So Blevins is nominated first, and then I think it's Eli Burks, maybe?
Yeah, I think Eli's total from last year is still good enough for the second highest right now.
Okay. Um, we have Michael Davis, and I think that's going to be basically it for the top 105s. Eli Burks, Blevins, Ben Rice, and Michael
Hmm.
Davis. I think Michael Davis is kind of the dark horse where a lot of people aren't paying too much of attention, but his training has looked really good. I don't know what he'll be able to pull. He's doing hook grip now. It's just kind of one of those things where we'll see what happens. But his squat and bench are right there with everybody else.
Yeah, and he's a young guy that's gonna keep making improvements too.
Hmm. I think he is the one that has the biggest cut, though. Everybody else, I think, is right there. Like Ben Rice is right there. Blevins is pretty damn close, and then Burks. I know the escrow guys. They try to stay pretty close.
I think Eli has a fair amount to cut too.
You think?
Yeah, he's looking a little big lately.
Yeah,
But he's also looking very strong, so
crazy strong.
I'm expecting him to have a big meet. So it's man, this is a tough one. Obviously, I'm rooting for Ben because I coach Ben and I'm going to be working with him.
Hmm.
Um, but man, this is going to be a good one. I think that top three with Garrett, Eli, and Ben is going to be very close, and we're going to see some big pulls and big attempts from both Ben and Eli on deadlift. They're pretty similar in terms of strength on deadlift. Eli's gotten more on the board in a meet, and Eli's the type of guy who can pretty much pull anything that he can hold on to. And Ben's similar to that too. So it's pretty much, as long as their grip can hold up, they can pull just about anything. And that's talking, anywhere from 800 to 820, 830 if needed. I think either of them are potentially going to attempt something like that if it's in the cards. And I think Eli attempted something like, what was it, 380 last year.
Eight
Um,
840 something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was a crazy reach attempt because he got it like halfway up. Um, so it's like if his grip can hold up, he can pull just something ridiculous, and so can Ben. I mean, both of them are just huge deadlifters, and they have the advantage over Garrett in that sense. But Garrett's a huge squatter. He's a world record bencher, at least for a short time at Worlds this year. It was taken shortly after him, but. But yeah, Garrett's certainly going to be ahead on subtotal, but both of these guys, Eli and Ben, just have huge deadlifts, and if it's there, they'll be able to put on something that they need, whether it's to move up in placings or to try to take a shot at first.
Yeah. Eli's I feel like the more complete lifter out of all of these. The only thing is his squat depth, but besides that, his strength has been really good. I've seen him squat 611 for 7, and then I saw a 672 squat too,
Hmm.
which is huge. If he can squat even 672, I think it's over.
Yeah, I would agree with that, just because Eli has the advantage on bench over Ben.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously Ben's weakness is bench compared to these other guys, but um, he can also make up a ton of ground on deadlift, and his squat training has been incredible too. So he
Yeah.
could be in the position to, um, who knows what we're going to attempt on squat. I don't want to say too much, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I'll say something more. I mean, I'm not his coach. I'm more just his friend. I've seen his lifts. I think if Ben does 730 something and Eli only gets maybe 670, it
yeah.
could be very, very close. It could be actually closer than people think. I think, in my opinion, not to completely put Blevins out of it, I feel like it is Eli versus Ben in this. Obviously Blevins benches the most, but I think his deadlift is not in range to keep things very close, since especially Ben Rice and Eli Burks are going to be playing well after him, um, significantly more after him, not just after him, but it'll be so much to the point where Blevins would have to get like 730 something just to make sure he gets a lift, and
Hmm.
then hope that that's enough to keep him right there.
So I would disagree with that, because Garrett has at least 50 pounds on bench over both of those guys. He's probably got 50, 60 pounds on bench over Eli, and almost 100 pounds on bench over Ben. They're going to be Ben and Garrett are going to be similar on squat. And the difference between Ben and Garrett on deadlift is not as far as it is on bench press. So
I think
Ben
it.
isn't. I
Yeah,
don't think Ben's 100 pounds better on deadlift than Garrett,
I think so.
As long as Garrett picks a reasonable third attempt. And I think that's what it's going to come down to is Garrett needs to make lifts. He needs to. He's missed somewhere around 340 in a few meets lately. So maybe taking something a little bit under that would be a good move for him to force these big deadlifters to take something that's a little bit out of reach for them.
Yeah.
But there's so many different scenarios that can play out, so we don't really know until
Let me ask you this: do you think Ben Rice is closer to 850 than Blevins is to 750?
no,
No. Okay,
no.
that's fair.
And I love Ben, and I'm in his corner.
It's different because you've held him back.
Stick at the moment.
You've definitely held Ben Rice back at some of these other meets. Whereas in training, I've seen him miss some lifts. Some I think a bigger deadlift here recently. Um, and sometimes he can be well over what you guys expect. So as long as it's cool because he's going to be the hometown guy. He doesn't really have to even travel for this meet. He just gets to kind of show up and do his thing.
Yeah,
I would really love to see him win this, and I think that's not going to be the case. I really want him to. I think it's just going to be Eli Burks that can deadlift more, and then obviously Eli still benches a lot. I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, if Eli has some issue go on or something, you never know. I think the big thing with all of these matchups in Raw Nationals, everybody's so close. You really
yeah,
don't know who is going to slip up or make one mistake, and it changes the entire dynamic of the matchups.
yeah. We're definitely not going to sandbag Ben this year. I mean, we're playing to win, just like all these other guys are.
Yeah.
Last year he was just making such rapid progress. We it was hard to know where he was going to end up. And then on deadlift, we were kind of just playing for position. So obviously his third was more conservative than we would have liked, but um, we're playing we're playing to win this time. So I mean, we're gonna try to maximize what he has on each lift, and then if it's there on a third deadlift, we're gonna go for it.
That's great to hear as a Ben Rice fan because I know a lot of people have not seen his like limit in competition in
Yeah,
a while since like 2016 Raw Nationals. 2016 Raw Nationals, he missed like a 720 something deadlift, like something very
yeah,
low, and only got
yeah.
like a
And
705 deadlift, and he's just had tremendous progress. And it's kind of been the thing where you haven't really gotten able to see where he's really at.
right. And at the Arnold, he missed like a 302 or 305, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's probably more like where we're gonna open now. Um, so that just speaks to the progress that he's made on that lift.
Definitely. And again, I don't want to throw Michael Davis out of this. I still think he's well within range. I just have not seen what he can deadlift top end. The heaviest deadlift I've seen in training is 725. He has pulled 750 before. I think maybe hook grip he could pull 770. But I don't know if he'll be able to connect with something over 700 on squat.
Mhm.
It's going to be really tough. It's going to be so close with all of these. Again, if Michael Davis is pulling after Blevins, maybe there's a way that he passes him up. I don't really know. I think again, this is kind of the case of whoever makes the most lifts will end up in the highest position. So is that it? Was that what do you think? So you're going what? Ben Rice 1, Eli Burks 2?
And uh, hmm.
hmm. Indeed. What are we gonna get? Decisions.
I mean, I gotta go with Ben.
Yeah, man. How do you wait that long? Come
No,
on.
no, I'm trying to be realistic
I
too.
I know.
I feel like Garrett still is the favorite because
Really? Wow. Okay.
he's so far ahead on bench, and I think people don't realize how much of a gap that makes. Just because these guys are great deadlifters, both Eli and Ben, if Garrett's ahead, 25, 30 kilos or more on bench, that's a lot to make up. And Garrett has has been working on his deadlift, and even if he puts up, say he pulls 330, 335, and he was already ahead by 30 kilos. That's a lot for them to pull, and he might be ahead on squat from both of them too. So there's a big gap there, and if he plays his cards right, I think he's still the favorite. But I got to pull for Ben because that's my guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the difference. I mean, for me, I just don't believe that he'll pull. You know, I don't think he'll pull a safe third attempt deadlift. I think he might miss, and I don't see him getting more than like 716 ish.
Okay.
So I guess that's just where we differ on that, which is fine. I definitely think Ben will be at least second place. So that's the 105s.
Yep.
120s. This is tricky now because Dennis Cornelius is confirmed out.
Right. As
So
of very recently.
very recently. What do we
Breaking
think?
news.
What do we think?
Ah, man. And we haven't really seen Tony Harris in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we don't know if he's going to be in the kind of shape that he was in a year or two ago when he was breaking the world record squat at the Arnold.
I know.
Uh, man, there's a lot of guys on here that Ryan Stills has a huge deadlift. I think he pulled
771.
no, I think at Worlds he pulled
Civ
like
80. Yeah.
360. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, he's a fun lifter to watch.
Mm-hmm.
David Moore, who uh,
Shout out
who
David
we
Moore, TSA.
who we got to meet this summer. Is a good guy, and he's been
Yeah.
making a lot of progress too. So I'm excited to see what he does.
We have
Man,
Nathan.
there's a lot of good lifters on this list, and I think it's going to be fairly close. And we don't know, if Matt Sommer started training bench or not. Um, but I mean, he's consistently been able to squat and deadlift over 800, and that automatically creates a pretty big gap there, even if he's only benching 150 or so.
He actually is nominated second, so he still is the highest nominated
Right.
total. Um,
Right, and I mean, if you think about it, he's already at over 1600 just with his squat and deadlift. If he makes those lifts, and then you add a mid 300 bench to that, and you're almost at a 2,000 pound total already.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit slept on just because of the bench. I want to say that he puts it together a little bit more. I think he's in the position where he knows that he can't slack on that.
Yeah,
I
I didn't say that to knock him. I was just
no,
being
I
fair.
know, I know, I know. No, I'm just
Uh,
saying. I think people don't notice that he is ranked second. Yeah, you're right. The squat and deadlift are just so huge that a lot of these are not squatting 800. They're squatting 700.
yeah,
So it's a big difference with just that. I definitely would give it to Tony Harris. I think the time off may not have been, all for naught. I think he'll definitely still be right up there. And then we have David Moore, Nathan Alexander, Jared Martin. All of those are still right around the same. I think David Moore is a little bit higher up as far as what he can do in a meet. I've seen him squat, 730 something and pull over 716 very easy,
hmm
benching high fours. So yeah, I think he'll be right there. My order on this is Tony Harris, Matt Somer, and then David Moore in third, Nathan Alexander in fourth, and then Jared Martin in fifth.
yeah. I would actually agree with that because I think, and maybe we're a little bit biased by rooting for David since we
Mm-hmm.
know him and we've seen a little bit more of his training. But I do think he's had a huge training cycle. He's made a ton of progress on all three lifts, and
Very fast, yeah.
yeah, and I think and he's on weight. He's not going to really have to cut for this one. So I think he's in a good position to be able to sneak into that podium spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's 120s. The only other one is the 120 plus.
Hmm?
So that's basically Ray Williams' show. There's not going to be anyone really contending with him, even though Ray will be getting to the meet at the very last second. That's confirmed. If you see that,
Really?
you listen to
No, I
it.
didn't.
His flight is getting in like the night before after a football game. Like he'll get
Okay.
there at like a.m. and then lift the next day. So it's not
Hmm.
crazy because he is in prime time. He'll probably
Yeah.
still be able to get some sleep and then wake up and kind of just eat a little bit and then go to the meet and lift. Um, so
Yeah, he's far enough ahead where that's not really going to matter. I mean,
yeah, even
Jason
getting
Mike,
openers.
Jason Mike had a great meet at Worlds. Put up a Masters world record in the squat and an open world record on bench, which is crazy. But even then, he's not able to hang with Ray, even on a bad day for Ray right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Jason Mike's bench is crazy. I think he's benched like 280, 280 something.
Yeah,
Um,
what he benched at Worlds was 281, I believe.
mhm. So he's crazy strong. I think his squat is just nearly 300 pounds behind, and then deadlift is underneath 100 pounds or two. Um, so it's still very significantly less, but I think he can be second place for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Joseph Pena does too.
Hmm.
Um, I think he's been very focused on squat progress and chasing numbers there, but um, if he's been able to make some deadlift progress along with that, he could be in contention for maybe second place too.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's going to be Pena and Jason Mike and then Ray Williams to watch. Um, Grant Higa is also one to watch, I think. Um, right? And then, am I missing anybody?
Um, Carly's a good lifter from New York. And he owns Mustache Fitness over there in upstate New York. Um, I'm pretty sure he's a listener of the TSA podcast. We talked to him briefly at Nationals last year, I think it was. But
Nice.
um,
Okay.
he's got a good squat too. I think he squats around 340, and he seems like he's been making progress.
Cool. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to go Ray Williams in first and
Yeah,
Jason Mike in second. And then, who else next?
Pena in third probably.
Pena in third.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll be the top three.
I haven't
Cool.
checked the totals, but I would imagine that's probably about where it ends up.
Right. So I think that concludes the breakdown. I think definitely this is going to be a very hectic meet. This is going to be 1,200 lifters, a little bit less, just because there's going to be some that clear out. I definitely know that with this, it's going to be very hectic. I don't know how it's going to be, how well run it's going to be. It's going to be tough to see how much better it is than 2016 Nationals. I think that was the best one. But for some of the new guys, it's definitely really exciting just to go, let alone compete at this, socialize with everybody, hang out, go see people that you see on Instagram and talk to them about whatever. And yeah, I think it's just generally a good experience for people, no matter what place you really get in.
Yeah, I have a feeling the primetime flights are going to run pretty late, with it being multiple platforms and multiple flights each day. There's some days where we're having three flights, like the Sunday night where we're having three flights of bigger men's classes. I think that's going to end up going pretty long. Um, and I think they're planning to have awards around 10 p.m. last night. And I think even that with three flights is optimistic with a 6 o'clock start. So yeah, I think it's going to be long days, but we're also going to see some amazing lifting, especially in those primetime sessions. And even during the day, there's like we were talking about before, there's a lot of talented lifters that maybe just missed the cutoff or are new to nationals and maybe stand a little. There's a lot of lifters that are worth watching both during the day and in prime time. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to say really all the lifters that aren't on here that weren't on the radar that we saw. There obviously will be plenty that show up and do much better than as they predicted. This is just my general numbers and who I think is going to be at in what place. Um, yeah, I feel like who's going to win the women's side? Who do you think?
You cut off on your question.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think you cut off too. I was asking, who do you think's gonna actually win the women's side for the full meet?
Best lifter.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably going to be one of the 63s. So I would say whoever wins 63s.
You think so? You don't think it's Heather?
I guess you have to factor that
Yeah.
into she has a pretty huge Wilks, or Carpino, as they
We didn't really talk
count it
about
as
that.
now. I don't think we need to get into that for now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Um,
I think it's going to be Heather. I think based on the Wilks that she had at the Arnold, I think it was just crazy high. And then I do think the 63s were right after her.
hmm
But I think as long as Heather does what she should, I think Heather has the Wilks. It is weird though with the Wilks. At the lighter weight classes, it's hard to really tell what really is the craziest performance on body weight.
Right.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot of crazy high level lifters that the Wilks may not reflect really what their true strength is.
hmm
So that is the women's side. The men's side for sure will be Ray Williams, even on an off day.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think that covers most of it. What do you think people should know about Raw Nationals for their first time going?
That's also a good question. I think if it's your first time going and you're getting there a few days early, just try to relax and not get too involved in the meet itself because you're even just sitting in the audience and getting kind of emotionally invested in the lifting can tire you out. So I would say at least the day before your meet, try to just kind of lay low and hang out in your hotel and not take in too much of the meet itself. You can come down and get a feel for where you're going to be and things like that. But if you're getting emotionally invested in the lifting, it's more draining than you realize. So I would say just kind of lay low and relax, especially the day before your meet, and just get prepared that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's a fine line between trying to experience everything and then also not drain yourself out emotionally where you're yelling, screaming, and just that alone is it's too much. Even handling people is very, very taxing. Just being
hmm
there for other people, walking around the venue. If the venue's big, I'd have no idea what it's going to look like. I think it's a hotel ballroom, so it should be, you know, isn't it? It's a hotel ballroom. I think it is, right?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a walk from where the warm-ups are to the platforms. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of steps, and if you're handling lifters during the day, if you're an athlete who also coaches lifters, you have
Mm-hmm.
to factor that into both in terms of your expectations for the meet and just knowing that those days where you're on your feet all day are going to tax you a little bit. So, maybe you eat a little bit more to account for that or whatever it may be. But that's certainly something that can't be ignored because, just being on your feet all day, loading plates, calling attempts, stuff like that, it's both physically and emotionally draining, more than you might realize at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's still fun though. You definitely want to go hang out with some of these people. You
Mhm.
definitely want to go train. A lot of us go train before the meet. There's still plenty of stuff to do. I mean, it is Spokane. I don't know what else there is really to do besides the lifting, but at least hanging out at the meet or training or going out to eat, that kind of stuff.
It actually looks like a pretty cool town from what I saw from Open Nationals earlier this year. And I know from some of the people that went to that, they said they had a great time there. So I think it's going to be good. And I know people have kind of, had some arguments and disagreements about whether this should be the location or not. But I think, we voted on it
Yeah,
several
we
years
voted
ago
on
just
it.
because it was the only option that we hadn't done already. I
Hmm.
think I think it was like Aurora, which we had just been to, and
Clean.
Killeen, or we go to a new location in the state of Washington, which no one had really been to, and that was enticing. So we went for that, and I'm still excited about it. I
I
mean,
am too.
it's not a major airport, so maybe it's a little bit more expensive for people to fly to, but outside of that, it seems like a cool town and looks like a good venue, and so far they've seems like they've done a really good job of organizing things. So I think it'll be good.
Cool. I think that's a good place to end for us. Anything else you think we're missing? I think that's it, right?
No, that's it. Yeah, so if you're going there, feel free to say hi. We'll see everybody in a few days. It's coming up quick.
Yeah, it's kind of cool though. Like the smaller airports, we like all run into everybody and the
Mhm.
hotels and everything. You'll see everybody. So
Yep.
Cool. That's it. I think that's it for us. See you guys in a few more days.